So, imagine for a second that you are the CEO of this massive, just a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 company.
Okay.
Right. You have this incredibly complex global enterprise, and, well, you need the absolute best talent in the world to keep it running.
Sure. You need the top tier.
Exactly. You need engineers, you need strategists, people who can completely change the paradigm of your industry.
Right. Game changers.
Yeah, but now imagine your head of human resources walks into your office, sits down, and says they have completely revamped the recruitment strategy.
Okay, I'm listening.
And they tell you from this day forward, your company will only hire graduates from exactly 5 universities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you are going to completely ignore every other college, like every other university, technical institute, and training program in the entire country.
I mean, you would look at them like they had completely lost their grip on reality.
Right, because by doing that, you would be artificially shrinking your own talent pool.
Completely. You'd be firing that HR director before they even finish the sentence.
Exactly. You'd be leaving absolute geniuses on the table simply because of, the logo printed on their diploma.
It's a completely irrational way to run any competitive enterprise. I mean, by deliberately putting blinders on your organization like that,
Yeah.
you are essentially guaranteeing that your competitors are going to scoop up the brilliant, paradigm-shifting talent that you simply, well, refuse to look at.
You're just handing it to them.
Right. In a purely capitalist sense, it's self-sabotage. You are prioritizing the perceived safety of a known commodity.
Like the big name schools.
Exactly. You're prioritizing that over the actual quantifiable ceiling of an entire population of potential employees.
Which brings us to the absolute juggernaut that is the National Football League.
Ah, yes.
And specifically how they scout the newly minted, quote-unquote, semi-pro athletes coming out of the NCAA.
Right.
Because when you really look under the hood of their primary scouting apparatus, they are essentially doing exactly what that hypothetical HR director just pitched.
It's basically the exact same model.
It really is. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are unpacking a truly fascinating proposal from the Film Room Remix.
It's a really compelling document.
It is. The core mission of this blueprint, for you listening at home, is a complete rewriting of the foundational scouting system for professional football.
It challenges pretty much everything we accept about how talent is evaluated right now.
Yeah. The pitch is just bold. What if college pro days were strictly like 100% reserved for players who are not invited to the NFL Combine?
I mean, it is a radical proposition. And, it's born out of an absolute glaring necessity.
Totally.
Because what we are really examining today isn't just the mechanics of football scouting. I mean, we will certainly get into the weeds on that.
Oh, it definitely will.
But we are evaluating systemic efficiency here. We are looking at the removal of deeply entrenched financial barriers. Things that keep highly capable people completely out of the workforce.
Right.
And most importantly, we're looking at how to prevent generational, just game-changing talent from falling through the massive, gaping cracks of an antiquated evaluation system.
Because the stakes here are incredibly high.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about a rigid structure that dictates the professional futures of thousands of athletes every single year.
Thousands.
Especially those operating outside the glaring spotlight of the major conferences, right? Specifically, we're talking about players from smaller schools and historically black colleges and universities.
Right, the HBCUs.
Yeah, and I am just thrilled to pull this apart with you because the concept of the hidden gem is, like, universally compelling to people.
Everyone loves an underdog story.
Exactly. But the mechanics of why they remain hidden in the first place are often really misunderstood.
Because it's not by accident.
No. So we need to start by looking at the sheer scale of the blind spot in the current setup, and the proposal brings the receipts right out of the gate.
The math is staggering.
It is. If the NFL and its scouting departments focus their premium resources almost exclusively on the Power 5 schools,
The massive, wealthy, televised university programs.
right, those ones, they are entirely missing out on 91.2% of college players.
Just that 91.2% figure requires a moment of pause.
It's insane.
We are not talking about a small margin of error in a statistical model here.
Yeah.
We are talking about a system that actively ignores 9 out of every 10 players who strap on a helmet at the collegiate level.
9 out of 10. That's just wild to me.
It really is.
Yeah.
When an organization restricts its primary, premium scouting resources like the highly publicized multi-million-dollar NFL Combine in Indianapolis.
Right, the big show.
Yeah, when they restrict that to a tiny fraction of the college football landscape, it is artificially limiting the quality of its own product.
It really is.
It's making multi-million-dollar draft decisions based heavily on where a 17 or 18-year-old kid decided to go to school 4 years prior.
Or where they were financially able to go to school.
Exactly. That's a huge part of it.
So let's test the historical weight of that 91.2% blind spot, because we aren't just talking about missing out on average depth chart players, right?
No, not at all.
We are talking about missing out on the foundational pillars of the sport. And the proposal leans really heavily into this history.
It brings up some incredible examples.
Like, look at the Hall of Fame. Michael Strahan, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice.
Legends.
Literal legends. Jerry Rice went to Mississippi Valley State. Walter
Yeah.
Payton went to Jackson State. Michael Strahan went to Texas Southern.
Right. All HBCUs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Historically, black colleges and universities that, historically did not receive anywhere near the television revenue or the facility funding of the big state schools.
Well, the scouting attention.
Right. Yet these players left a permanent, massive imprint on the NFL.
But I think the fragility of their discovery is the real issue here.
What do you mean by fragility?
Well, when you analyze the early careers of the legends you just named, you have to separate their undeniable talent from the sheer fortunate coincidence of their discovery.
Oh, like they almost didn't get found.
Right.
Yeah.
How much of Jerry Rice getting drafted in the first round was because a scout just happened to be in the right region, looking at the right grainy film on the right afternoon?
That's a scary thought.
It is. The system they came up in demanded an inordinate amount of luck for a player from an HBCU. And from an organizational standpoint,
Right.
relying on luck is not a strategy. It is a liability.
That fundamentally reminds me of how we train artificial intelligence models today.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. Like if you are building a predictive algorithm to price real estate, but you only feed it housing data from 5 wealthy metropolitan zip codes.
It's going to be skewed.
Completely skewed. That AI is going to be completely useless if you ask it to evaluate a property in a rural county.
Yeah, it will just reject the rural data as an anomaly because it doesn't fit the biased parameters it was trained on.
Exactly. And the NFL scouting machine is an algorithm trained almost exclusively on Power 5 data.
So when a 6-foot-tall, 240-pound linebacker from Kent State shows up, the algorithm rejects him.
Yes. Which brings us directly to James Harrison.
Oh, James Harrison is the perfect physical embodiment of this systemic failure.
He really is. Here's a player who eventually becomes a Hall of Fame defensive juggernaut.
A Defensive Player of the Year.
Right. A guy who makes one of the most iconic plays in Super Bowl history, and he goes completely undrafted.
Undrafted. Every single team in the league passed on him multiple times.
And the blueprint points out something crucial about the era Harrison played in. He played before the transfer portal existed,
Which is huge context.
meaning he was geographically and institutionally locked in, right?
The pre-portal era is vital to understand. Because before the modern era, where players have the agency to just transfer to a more visible program if they feel they're being ignored.
Right? They just hop in the portal now.
Exactly. But back then, the institutional lock-in was absolute. The phrase from the analysis that really stands out is, if you didn't get noticed, you didn't get noticed.
Man, that's brutal.
It really is. James Harrison had generation-defining defensive capability, completely bypassed by an entire industry of professionals whose sole job is to identify talent.
Right. Their only job.
And he had to fight tooth and nail, getting cut multiple times, playing in NFL Europe just to find a defensive coordinator who understood how to utilize his specific biomechanics.
Wow.
Now, extrapolate the James Harrison case study across that 91.2% of the collegiate talent pool.
Right. The math on that.
The statistical probability is that there are multiple players with Harrison's ceiling or Walter Payton's ceiling currently sitting in office cubicles or working construction.
Just because the scouting algorithm never processed their data.
Exactly.
But let me introduce some friction here, because I know the counter argument that people listening might be thinking of.
Sure, lay it on me.
If a player is truly undeniably a generational talent, if they are moving at a completely different speed than everyone else on the field, doesn't the tape eventually speak for itself?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. Because we live in an era of HUDIO, of digital film exchange, A scout doesn't have to physically drive to Mississippi Valley State anymore.
Right. They can just pull up the tape on an iPad.
Exactly. If a kid is dominating, wouldn't a scout whose entire livelihood depends on finding talent eventually flag them?
Well, that assumes the scout is operating in a vacuum without institutional pressure,
Hmm.
which is never the case.
Okay, explain that.
You have to understand the psychology of a professional talent evaluator. Scouts have limited time, they have strict budgets, and they have a massive mandate to minimize risk.
Minimize risk. Okay.
Let's look at the incentive structure.
Yeah.
If a general manager drafts a highly touted player from Alabama in the first round,
Yeah.
and that player turns out to be a bust,
Yeah, what happens?
the GM usually keeps their job. The justification is easy. They can just say, well, everyone thought he was great, he played in the SEC, it just didn't work out.
Ah, it's a safe bet.
Right. But if that same GM uses a premium draft pick on a kid from a Division III school, and that kid is a bust,
Oh, I see.
the GM gets fired. Drafting from the 91.2% is viewed as an existential career risk because the quality of the opposition on that digital film is harder to quantify.
Okay, that completely changes the context.
It does.
It's not about whether they can see the talent. It's about whether they are willing to risk their mortgage on evaluating the talent against lesser competition.
Precisely. The system rewards safe, defensible decisions over high-risk, high-reward discoveries.
Wow.
So no, the cream does not automatically rise to the top if the people holding the ladles are terrified of reaching into the bucket.
That's a great way to put it.
And so the proposal to give the 91.2% their own strictly dedicated pro days is about bypassing that psychological barrier.
It's about building a structural pipeline.
Yes, a quantifiable pipeline that removes the quote-unquote risk from the evaluation. It provides standardized data that a GM can take to an owner and say, look at these objective numbers, this player belongs in our league.
Which means we really need to look at the inadequacy of the current Band-Aids.
The current workarounds, yeah.
Because it's not as if small school players have literally zero avenues to the pros right now, but the avenues they do have are incredibly fraught and just deeply flawed.
Very flawed.
The proposal meticulously outlines how these overlooked players currently try to get noticed and why those avenues fall dramatically short.
Right.
Right now, if you are outside the Power Five, your entire professional life essentially hinges on getting an invite to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, and the Senior Bowl is heavily romanticized in football media as this great equalizer.
It really is. They hype it up so much.
But as an evaluation tool for unknown talent, it is highly problematic. Because it is, fundamentally, a single exhibition game preceded by a few days of padded practice.
A single game. The analysis describes it as offering a very short burst of information.
Exactly.
Put yourself in the cleats of a player from a small school. You've been grinding for 4 years in relative obscurity.
Nobody knows your name.
Right. And you somehow managed to secure this golden ticket to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl.
It's huge for them.
It is. But your entire professional future, your family's financial future, rests on how you perform in a few dozen reps in a completely unfamiliar offensive or defensive system, surrounded by teammates whose tendencies you do not know.
The psychological load of that bottleneck is just crushing.
It has to be.
You are asking an athlete to condense thousands of hours of training, film study, and physical development into a microscopic window of opportunity.
Yeah.
The margin for error is non-existent. I mean, if a wide receiver slips on the turf during their one targeted passing route in a 2-minute drill, or if the quarterback, under heavy pressure, simply doesn't look their way, the evaluation is over.
Because they don't have a whole season of tape to fall back on.
Right. The scout just writes down lacks separation or non-factor, and the player's draft stock just evaporates. That short burst of information becomes a definitive negative career verdict.
That is so unfair. And because that American funnel is so incredibly tight, the history of the sport is literally littered with guys who had to leave the country to find a place to play.
Right, the alternative leagues.
Yeah, the blueprint points specifically to the Canadian Football League, the CFL, and the Arena Leagues.
Huge parts of football history.
We are talking about Warren Moon. We're talking about Kurt Warner.
Unbelievable players.
Warren Moon won a Rose Bowl at Washington, went entirely undrafted, and had to go dominate the CFL for 6 consecutive years.
6 years.
Winning 5 Grey Cups before the NFL finally admitted they made a mistake and brought him back.
And Kurt Warner's another great example.
Yeah, he's literally stocking shelves at a grocery store, playing in the Arena League, playing in NFL Europe, because the U.S. domestic system had absolutely no infrastructure to evaluate him properly.
And both of those men are in the Hall of Fame today.
It's crazy.
The outsourcing of player development to foreign or alternative leagues is just a massive market inefficiency.
Yeah, it doesn't make business sense.
The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar entity. It shouldn't rely on the Edmonton Eskimos or the Iowa Barnstormers to vet its future Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Exactly.
When you look at what a dedicated, exclusive pro day offers, which is what this proposal advocates for, the massive pool of uninvited players, it shifts the evaluation metric entirely.
Right.
Because a pro day is not a chaotic, one-off exhibition game with 21 other moving variables. It is a highly controlled scientific environment.
But let's test that logic, though, because if I'm a scout or even just a fan watching from the couch, I'm thinking, isn't live game tape from a full-contact, pads-on game like the Senior Bowl inherently more valuable than watching a guy run around plastic orange cones in shorts and a T-shirt?
That's a very common question.
Right. I want to see if the guy can actually play football when someone is trying to hit him. Why is the pro day drill so vital?
Well, it is a common misconception that scouts only want to see football. They already have the football tape from the player's college career.
Okay, true.
What they lack, specifically for players outside the major conferences, is standardized biomechanical data.
Standardized data.
Yes. The proposal explicitly highlights that pro days allow players to showcase individual, isolated workouts. They run drills designed to extract specific, raw athletic traits that get completely lost in the chaos of a live game.
Break that down for me, though. What kind of traits are we talking about that you can't see in a game?
Well, take the three-cone drill, for example.
Okay.
It is entirely about ankle flexion, hip fluidity, and the ability to change direction without losing velocity.
Right.
In a live game at the Senior Bowl, an edge rusher might get double-teamed, or the offensive tackle might hold him, neutralizing the scout's ability to evaluate that raw bend and acceleration.
Ah, because there's interference.
Exactly. But in a three-cone drill at a pro day, it is just the athlete, the surface, and the laser timer.
It's pure data.
Right. A scout can definitively say, this kid from a Division III school bends his hips at the exact same angle and speed as Von Miller.
Oh.
You isolate the variable, you remove the chaotic elements of the game to find the pure athletic baseline.
That makes a ton of sense.
This is especially critical for a player who hasn't had the benefit of elite Power 5 strength and conditioning programs. You are drafting their physical ceiling, not just their current refinement.
Okay, so the pro day is the laboratory. The game is the wild.
That's a great analogy.
And if you've never been tested in the laboratory, the scientists won't trust you to survive in the wild.
Exactly.
So the Film Room Remix Blueprint is basically arguing that we need to build a massive laboratory specifically for the 91.2%.
Yes.
But this is where the proposal hits a massive logistical wall. And I need you to walk me through the math here.
Okay, let's get into it.
Because we aren't talking about inviting 50 guys to a high school field. If 91.2% of college football players are outside the combine, we are talking about roughly 60,000 to 70,000 athletes.
It's a massive pool.
How do you physically orchestrate a scouting combine for the masses without completely bankrupting the players and without the logistics just collapsing under their own weight?
This is where the blueprint evolves from a theoretical football argument into a highly pragmatic logistical infrastructure.
Okay.
The solution presented is the creation of regional stadium hubs.
Regional stadium hubs.
Yes. The proposal suggests centralizing this combine-style event over the span of 1 to 2 weeks, utilizing the existing infrastructure of the league.
And the specifics they offer are fascinating. They propose using 8 different NFL stadiums.
Right.
Each stadium hosts a 2-day event. And the geographic mandate, which is really the linchpin of this entire idea, is that players should have to travel a maximum of 4 to 6 hours to reach a hub.
A single day's drive, minimum.
Right. But before we get to the travel, address the sheer volume. How do 8 stadiums process tens of thousands of players in 2 days?
Well, you don't process 70,000 players blindly.
Oh, okay.
The regional hubs operate on a tiered qualification system based on digital data aggregation.
What does that mean in practice?
With modern tracking technology, GPS data from college practices, verified regional timing days, the league can easily filter the 91.2% down to the top tier of uninvited prospects in each region.
Ah, so there's a pre-filter.
Exactly. We are talking about scaling the invite list from the current 300 to perhaps 3,000 or 4,000 of the most promising overlooked athletes.
Okay, that's much more manageable.
Right. You divide 4,000 players by 8 regional hubs, and you're processing 500 athletes per stadium over a 48-hour period.
Which is totally doable.
Absolutely. With laser timing, RFID tags in the cleats, and automated biomechanical cameras, processing 500 players in 2 days is not only possible, it is incredibly efficient.
That automated tracking aspect makes the logistics actually viable. But let's go back to that 4 to 6 hour radius because that is the great democratizer here.
It's the most important part of the plan.
Think about the accessibility of this. If a state decides to put only one voting location in the absolute geographic center of the state, right?
Right.
And tells everyone, if you want to vote, you just have to drive 20 hours round trip. Who is actually going to vote?
Only the privileged.
Exactly. It will only be the people with reliable vehicles, the money for a hotel, the expendable income for gas, and the privilege to take 2 days off work.
Right.
And the exact same filter applies to NFL scouting. If the only way to get notice is to fly to a specialized training facility in Florida or California, hire a private biomechanics coach, and pay for specialized nutrition on your own dime,
You're filtering them out.
you are filtering out incredible talent purely based on their socioeconomic background.
The financial barrier is arguably the most insidious filter in the current system. And the blueprint acknowledges that players come from vastly different financial realities.
Yeah.
A 4 to 6 hour drive fundamentally dismantles that barrier.
Because it's just a road trip.
Exactly. A player doesn't need to finance a cross-country flight or a week-long hotel stay. They can load up a car with 3 of their college teammates, drive to the nearest NFL stadium hub on a Tuesday morning, participate in the event, and drive back to their dorm by Wednesday night.
That's incredible.
It shifts the evaluation paradigm from who has the capital to be seen to who has the metrics to be drafted.
It's an incredibly powerful image, a kid at a small HBCU looking at his bank account, knowing he just can't afford a $1,000 flight to a national showcase.
It happens all the time.
But under this model, he maps out the nearest hub on his phone. It's 4 hours away. He splits the gas with his buddies, shows up, runs a 4.4 40-yard dash, and his entire life trajectory changes.
It's life-changing.
But the blueprint also notes that this isn't just charity, right? This makes sense for the NFL's bottom line. It specifically mentions this is structured for profit reasons.
Oh, it is a massive cost-saving measure for the 32 NFL franchises.
Really? How so?
Currently, scouting departments spend millions of dollars on travel, hotels, and per diems. They're sending regional scouts zigzagging across the country to visit 300 different small college campuses just to watch 1 or 2 players run drills on a poorly maintained grass field.
Oh, right. The travel costs for the scouts must be astronomical.
It is. By centralizing the top tier of the 91.2% into 8 specific NFL stadiums, the scouts don't travel. The talent comes to them.
Wow, that flips the whole dynamic.
It does. It standardizes the testing surface, it standardizes the weather conditions if it's a domed stadium, and it radically reduces the overhead cost of talent acquisition. It is ruthlessly efficient.
Which naturally leads to the next massive hurdle in this blueprint. Let's trace the path here. Our hypothetical player drives the 4 hours. He crushes the regional hub pro day. His 3-cone drill is off the charts. The scouts have the standardized data.
Right.
Now what? Because the reality of professional football is that roster spots are violently limited.
Very limited.
You have a 53-man active roster. You have a small practice squad. If we suddenly unearth hundreds of these hidden gems from the regional hubs, where do they physically go?
This is where the proposal addresses the funnel. Because identifying the talent is useless if you don't have the structural capacity to house and develop it.
Right, you can't just send them home.
Exactly. The blueprint provides a logical sequence. It proposes a massive expansion of NFL reserve camps.
Okay, expand on that.
Currently, teams maintain a very small, tightly regulated practice squad. These are players retained to run the opposition's plays during practice and to act as emergency call-ups.
Usually like 16 guys, right?
Around there, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The proposal advocates scaling this concept up significantly.
But the NFL operates under a very strict, collectively bargained salary cap.
Yes, they do.
If I'm an NFL owner or if I'm representing the NFL Players Association, this sounds like a financial nightmare.
I can see why you'd think that.
If you demand that teams expand their reserve camps from, say, 16 players to 40 players, who is footing the bill for that? You are either breaking the salary cap or you are forcing these newly discovered players to accept sub-minimum wage contracts just to stay in the building.
Right.
How does this blueprint reconcile the financial math of expanding the roster?
The economic offset is found in the mitigation of catastrophic injury costs.
Interesting.
Football is characterized by an astonishingly high injury rate and timely, often sudden exits. The attrition rate is unlike any other major professional sport. Teams are constantly scrambling.
Yeah, you see it every week, guys dropping like flies.
Let's look at the actual cost of an injury under the current system. If a starting left tackle tears his ACL in week 10, the team loses his production, but his salary remains on the cap.
Yeah.
The team then has to scramble to sign a veteran free agent off the street, someone who hasn't been in a professional conditioning program for months, who doesn't know the playbook, and who is highly susceptible to secondary injuries.
And the quality of play just plummets.
Exactly. And when the quality of play plummets, you lose primetime television slots, you lose merchandise sales, you lose playoff revenue.
The product degrades.
Yes. The blueprint argues that an expanded reserve camp acts as an active, localized insurance policy.
Oh, I see.
Yes, there's an upfront cost to housing and paying an expanded roster of 40 reserve players. But these are players who have been vetted through the regional hubs.
So they're known commodities.
Right. They are in your facility.
Mm.
They are eating your team's nutrition plan. They are sitting in your meeting rooms, learning the complex terminology of your playbook.
The phrase the proposal uses is having players reserved and ready.
Reserved and ready. When that left tackle goes down, you aren't flying a guy in off the couch on a Tuesday to start on a Sunday.
Right, hoping he remembers how to block.
Exactly. You elevate a player from your expanded reserve camp who has been practicing your exact blocking schemes for 6 months. Wow. The upfront cost of the expanded camp is vastly outweighed by the preservation of the on-field product and the mitigation of mid-season panic signings. It transforms a team's reaction to injuries from a chaotic scramble into a seamless internal promotion.
It fundamentally changes the depth of the league.
Completely.
We've taken a player from obscurity, removed the geographic and financial barriers via the regional hub, evaluated them with standardized biomechanics, and integrated them into a massive, localized reserve camp where they stay sharp and ready.
That's full pipeline.
We have completely rebuilt the pathway to the pros. But the Film Room Remix blueprint doesn't stop at the professional level.
No, it doesn't.
This is where the proposal gets truly radical. It zooms all the way out and asks, how do these changes at the pro level ripple backward and permanently alter the NCAA itself?
This is the most profound paradigm shift in the entire document.
Okay, lay it out for us.
The structural changes we just discussed, the pro days and the reserve camps, point toward an inevitable restructuring of college football.
Right.
The proposal explicitly links these changes to the creation of 2 NCAA college football seasons during a single academic year.
2 distinct football seasons within a 9-month academic calendar.
Yes.
That is a monumental physical and logistical proposition. The proposal claims this 2-season model will aid the power of competition and vastly increase player exposure.
Which is true.
On a purely mathematical level, that tracks. If you have twice as many games, or at least 2 distinct periods of competition, you generate twice as much digital film for the 91.2% to put in front of the regional hub evaluator.
Exactly.
But the physical toll of football is brutal. You cannot ask 19-year-olds to play 25 games a year.
Yeah.
How does a 2-season model actually function without destroying the athletes?
Well, the key is that a 2-season model does not necessarily mean doubling the total number of games played by an individual athlete.
Oh, okay. How does it work then?
It points toward a restructuring of the calendar, perhaps a fall season and a spring season, similar to the Apertura and Clausura formats used in Latin American soccer leagues.
Oh, or like the split-season formats in minor league baseball.
Exactly. It could involve shorter, highly intense regional mini-seasons. The goal isn't just to grind the players down. The goal is to create multiple high-stakes evaluation periods.
That makes a lot of sense.
But more importantly, the proposal argues that this structure is the only way to impose necessary regulations on the 2 most chaotic elements currently destroying the fabric of college sports.
Let me guess. The transfer portal and NIL.
The transfer portal and name, image, and likeness deals. Yes.
The transfer portal and NIL have turned college football into the Wild West.
That's total chaos.
You have players demanding trades mid-season. You have millions of dollars in unregulated booster money functioning as shadow salaries. It is just a mess. How does splitting the season in 2 put the genie back in the bottle?
By enforcing a structured professional calendar on what the proposal rightfully identifies as newly minted semi-pro athletes.
Right.
Currently, the NCAA calendar is linear and unforgiving. If a player has a bad September, they panic about their draft stock, quit the team, and jump into the transfer portal immediately to secure a spot elsewhere for the following year.
Yeah, you see guys sitting out bowl games all the time now.
It is highly destabilizing.
But if you have two distinct seasons, like a fall block and a spring block, you naturally create structured off seasons in between them.
Precisely. You create defined transfer windows, say, in December and May. You lock players into their rosters for the duration of that specific mini-season.
Oh, I see.
It also regulates NIL contracts. Instead of a booster threatening to pull funding in week 4 if a player doesn't get enough touches, an NIL contract can be legally bound to a specific half season of play.
So it brings order to the chaos.
It shifts the environment from chaotic free agency to structured contractual professionalism.
It is recognizing the reality of what the sport has become.
Yes.
Because the NCAA has been trying to run a multi-billion-dollar 21st century semi-professional sports league using a 19th century amateur academic calendar.
It's completely incongruous.
By moving to a two-season model, you align the sport with global professional standards. It keeps the talent engaged. It creates massive new broadcasting revenue streams for the universities, and it provides a constant structured flow of data for the NFL's regional scouting hubs.
It is a holistic reimagining of the ecosystem.
Yeah, it really is.
The blueprint from the Film Room remix isn't just trying to find a faster wide receiver for an NFL team. It is diagnosing a systemic blockage that begins in the college ranks with unregulated free agency.
Right.
Compounded by an elite-obsessed scouting algorithm that ignores 91.2% of the workforce.
And culminating in an NFL product that degrades wildly the moment a starter gets injured.
Exactly. By fixing the funnel regional hubs, biomechanical pro days, expanded reserve camps, and a two-season collegiate structure, you ensure that talent, regardless of geography or financial background, dictates success.
Wow. We have covered an immense amount of structural theory today. Let's trace the arc of this blueprint one final time.
Sounds good.
We started by staring into the massive void of the 91.2% blind spot, acknowledging that the current algorithm is designed to ignore the next James Harrison simply because he plays in the wrong zip code.
Right.
We looked at the historical weight of HBCU legends like Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, and Michael Strahan. Players who proved that the ceiling of athletic potential is not geographically restricted to the Power Five.
And we examined the failure of current alternatives, noting that forcing players to stake their entire careers on a single Senior Bowl game or exiling them to the Canadian Football League like Warren Moon is a massive organizational failure.
Totally.
We walked through the logistical reality of the 8-stadium regional hubs and how a 4 to 6 hour drive permanently dismantles the financial barriers of scouting.
We followed that talent into the NFL itself, looking at how expanding reserve camps acts as a vital, localized insurance policy against the brutal attrition rate of the sport. And finally, we zoomed out to see how this entirely new ecosystem necessitates a radical two-season NCAA structure to finally bring order, transfer windows, and contractual stability to the wild west of semi-pro college football.
It is an incredibly dense, brilliantly interconnected blueprint.
It really is.
It serves as a powerful reminder that the massive systems we accept as immutable, the systems we assume are just the way things are done, are often deeply flawed. They're reliant on extreme bias and entirely fixable if we're willing to overhaul the filtering mechanisms.
Which leaves you, listening to this right now, with a final thought to chew on as you step back into your own world.
Right.
Whether you work in corporate finance, software engineering, healthcare, or the arts. Every single industry operates on a filtering algorithm.
They absolutely do.
So, if a multi-billion-dollar juggernaut like the NFL, an entity with essentially unlimited resources and a desperate need for talent, has been structurally hobbling itself by ignoring 91.2% of its potential workforce based on outdated habits and geographic bias. Well, what incredible talent is your own industry entirely blind to?
It makes you wonder.
Who makes up the 91.2% in your profession, and how are you going to build the regional hub required to find them?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep examining the structures around you, keep questioning the algorithms, and we will catch you next time.